All right, we're going to get started here today. So thank you for joining us today for this webinar on Instacart, how to increase consumer trial and repeat purchases. So today I am joined by David De Rabirio. Sorry, David, I totally butchered your last name.
It's
So
okay.
feel
Don't worry
free.
about it. It's actually not bad. So
Okay. He
given misspell way people present said it before. So don't worry
I
about it.
added an R in there and there's
Yeah,
not one,
it's totally
but
cool. Totally
whatever.
cool.
Um, he is the director of agency partnerships at Instacart. I'm also joined by Elise Steiferman. She's the director of client service and development at Coegi. And then I am the director of operations here at Coegi. So welcome. We're very excited to have you and looking forward to a great webinar. So let's get started.
Thanks, Julia. Yeah, I'm very excited to be able to be joined by Dave at Instacart today. Obviously, grocery delivery, e-commerce, buy online, pick up in store all really took off during 2020 as quarantines were happening and consumers were looking for alternatives to being able to buy their groceries or grab a bottle of wine, things like that. And so Instacart kind of feels like an unsung hero of the quarantine times. And so obviously that developed a ton of growth with Instacart and other grocery delivery services. So Dave, I'd like to pass it over to you to kind of talk through that growth that you've been seeing on the Instacart side of things and the adoption across a broader age range during that time.
Yeah, sure. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. Yeah, I think we're going to cover that in section one. We're going to cover three other things. We're going to talk about just how things get onto Instacart and then the ad opportunities that allow marketers to invest and take advantage of that. We're going to talk about our largest ad product in terms of volume and investment called Featured Product. It's a search-based product that I'm sure if you've advertised on Instacart before, you're probably familiar with. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the insights that we provide our brands. Obviously, Instacart, the transaction data and conversion that we see across our platform is of huge importance to a lot of our brands. So we're going to talk about how you can partner with Instacart to get a lot of that information. So we'll talk about platform updates. I think the key here is that we're still seeing the same unprecedented growth that we saw mid-pandemic. So if you look at that 500% year over year, I think that's a January number or a February number. Right now, it'll be interesting to see what the growth numbers are as we hit March and April, the year over year as the pandemic started to hit. But we're, back in February and in January, we're roughly up 500% year over year. We're still seeing the same order volume and same traffic and same new customers that we saw back in March, April. And so what that means is, we talk about 5 years worth of growth in 5 weeks, really 5 years worth of growth really in the last 12 months. We've seen that. And when we look at just the overall size of transactions, we call it GTV, gross transaction value, we're up 300% year over year when we look at those numbers in February and January. And so, all of this growth really meant that we had to, we went from having around 120 to 130,000 shoppers to now over 500,000 shoppers. We had, a small but dedicated customer service team. I think we now have 9 customer service centers across the globe to handle inbound calls, at any time of the day. So, while we were doing all that to ensure that the delivery business continued to function and operate at a high level, our business development team was still adding new retailers. And so, in 2020, we added 150 new retailers to the Instacart sort of this list of retailers. That was over. That number is actually more like 22,000 new store locations in the marketplace. Just recently, we added Meijer and Family Dollar. We also added Walgreens, which I'm sure some of you heard of a few weeks ago. And when you look at some of these brands, you look at like a Family Dollar consumer versus a 7-Eleven consumer versus a Sephora consumer. I think you see the trend here is that, very different types of consumers shopping for very different reasons. So there's a strategy here really is to be the go-to delivery service for, for retailers or big multi-retailer location stores across the United States. And
Hey, David, really
yes.
quickly with that growth, how do you expect that to change as we go into the summer, knowing that COVID restrictions are lightening up, everybody is getting vaccinated? Do you have that forecasted out at all that you can kind of shed light into?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I actually just saw it on the news today. The studies show that what people did during the pandemic to increase efficiency, to make their lives easier, chances are those things are going to be pretty sticky as we come out of COVID. And we find that the grocery delivery business is not going to be any different. Think about the hour and a half that you save every week if you use Instacart or you use Amazon Fresh or Fresh Direct. Like, are you going to rededicate that hour and a half to your day to go shopping? I woke up on Saturday or Sunday morning, and my wife's cell phone was right next to her, and she reached over and she's like, "Oh, my shopper's already shopping." Like, that convenience is hopefully going to continue as we head sort of post-pandemic. So I hope that answers your question. We do have some statistics about that. If I can definitely share that after this presentation.
Abe, I think that's a really good point. I mean, using grocery delivery services like Instacart, it's not a Band-Aid fix. It's a long-term commitment. And I feel like it allowed a lot of brands to pivot really quickly, especially those that did not have like an online e-commerce solution already built out. This allowed them to kind of expand their footprint beyond those who were comfortable going in store and really being able to find a solution that works in their daily life and add that convenience. And from every bit of research I've seen, you're right that it's just going to continue to grow over time. Now, the demographics that use it most frequently probably will shift a little bit, but I feel like it was such an unprecedented time, and this was such a great solution. One add-on question I have is that as more consumers continue to adopt this, do you think that Instacart will continue to prioritize grocery, or do you think there's going to be a big expansion into other CPG goods, thinking about like how Best Buy is now an option? How do you see that growing?
Yeah, I mean, grocery will continue to be our focus. It's what we want to do. It's what we want to do best. But we see an opportunity, right? And we see an opportunity when you look at Bed Bath & Beyond and Bye Bye Baby and Sephora. We see an opportunity as retail today changes, right? The shifting landscape of the strip mall, right? Like, as that changes and develops, we want to be there and be a solution to those changes. So in the same way that I want to get my butter delivered every week, and I don't have to go to the supermarket, we've all gotten comfortable with Amazon sending you a brand new 65-inch TV. We could get that same comfortability with having Instacart deliver it from Best Buy. So there is a strategy there. And I think this slide talks to another strategy too. When you look at 70% of penetration in Canadian households, I mean, there's an international strategy that is going to play out here over the next few years, and I think that's sort of a part of Instacart's growth strategy. So adding more retailers, and then we think there's an international play as well. I mean, we have over 600 plus partners right now, that's 52,000 stores. We didn't include Walgreens there. And then, we talked about sort of expanding into other categories. We have 24 states where we can deliver alcohol. We sort of divide that up into beer, wine, liquor. But we have, 24 states with some form of alcohol delivery, which is, again, a whole other category that we're expanding into, a whole different set of retail locations. and then a whole different way to get your weekend or Thursday happy hour kicked off. So how do we talked about customer profile a little bit. I heard like a little subject matter brought in your last question. Customers use Instacart. This is a little bit of that information. 20 pages, 18 searches. The basket size is $103, which is actually pretty amazing. That's significant. 18 items per order. And then the average order, this is someone that shopped at Instacart 10 or more times. So average order, one plus a week. And then the demographic profile that shifted, we definitely saw our user base get a little older during COVID. If you think about people that maybe weren't excited to expose themselves to the supermarket, older, no kids. We've seen that as the pandemic has started to pull back a little bit, we've seen that demographic shift more back to family, presence of children. All of our customers seem to have the same profile in terms of moderate to higher household incomes, higher education, etc. But we did see that age shift a little bit as we hit sort of maximum pandemic. And going back to the question about just Instacart and the growth after COVID, I mean, we saw 5 years in 12 months. Here's what's supposed to happen in the next 5 years. Online grocery is expected to grow, bottom line. I just think pandemic condensed all of that growth. So online grocery is about 9 to 10% of total grocery. Instacart is about half of that. And then, in the next 5 years, it's about projected to be about $150 billion business. Obviously Instacart sees the opportunity to either continue to be half or even be more of that. And, with the opportunity that Instacart sees, so is the opportunity we see with all of our partners and our brands. So this is a sampling from a small category at Instacart. We'll call it Category X. And we look at things like this, and you're going to see a lot of slides now that sort of slice and dice bits of data. Some hopefully you'll find interesting. This is looking at that category and looking at conversion, dollars per customer, and trips per customer. We look at dollars and trips in one sort of view. We call it a buy rate opportunity, but we're comparing brick and mortar with Instacart. So when someone buys a product from this category, about 75% of the time when they walk into a brick and mortar store, when they come into Instacart, they're only buying something from this category around 25% of the time. So for one brand in this category, if we could get the orange up to the green, for us, it represents $66 million in just overall gross return. For one marketer or advertiser in this case, that represents $17 million of additional sales. If we look at the buy rate opportunity, that's both of these dollars per customers, trips per customers, we look at that together, that orange gets up to green. We're looking at $365 million incremental for Instacart, and for one brand, almost $100 million. If we look at all three of them together, we raise that orange 1 percentage point on all three of these charts. That's a 45 times growth in a single sort of point game for that marketer. So while the opportunity is huge for Instacart, the opportunities are huge for the brands that we work with. And here's
quick question. So, I think the more that this is seen as such a success story, there are more people in the space who are wanting to kind of get in on that piece of the pie. I'm thinking, example like Walmart being able to build out their own DSP in collaboration with the trade desk. I mean, obviously Amazon really honing in on delivery and that service, especially like with Whole Foods. How does Instacart plan to continue to be competitive in the space as other large corporations try to capitalize on the growth of online delivery?
Yeah, I think, as you name, and let's not forget that DoorDash also now is starting to experiment with doing their own sort of their own storage and delivery. I think in all three of those examples, none of those examples are what Instacart does. Instacart, I'm on the ad side, right? So I came from LiveRamp, I came from from ad tech, right? We are not an ad. Instacart is by no means an ad tech company. We have an advertising product. We have a lot of work to do to grow that product to get to where it needs to be. We are a technology company, and we're a technology company that specializes in technology that allows retailers to set up a delivery business, right? And that's where our technology, we'll go a little bit into like the algorithms and everything that go into actually the decision tree to get from when you hit a product and add it to your basket on an app to it coming to your house. It's a very technical process, and that's what we do best. And none of the sort of every one of the companies that we sort of mentioned does it differently. Instacart is not Amazon. Instacart is not Walmart. We have retailers that we work with, and so as part of the triangle, like when you talk about a consumer, it's not even, it's like a quadrangle, right? You've got a consumer, you've got a shopper, you've got the retailer, and then you've sort of got the brands that get bought back to home, right? So you have sort of four entities involved there. Walmart doesn't have that, right? They own all their retail locations. In no place, and this is what makes Instacart and the data that Instacart has, do you get, again, we talked about that consumer being so different from Family Dollar to Wegmans to Sephora. Like in no place do you get that type of variety when it comes to brand loyalty at the retail level. So they're very different. And I think, we'll continue to do what we do well, and that is focus on sort of the technology that allows us to get the product from from adding to your basket to your house the quickest and best way possible. And when we take a look at some of those products, we look at year over year growth for our top 25 categories, and what we find here, butter, we look at the stars, those are sort of the leaders here. Butter, spices and seasonings, plain milk. We sort of see two things. Number one, people are cooking a lot, right? Root vegetables, fresher herbs. Obviously, people are doing a lot of cooking at home still. But again, these are ordinary, average, everyday stuff that you go to the market for. Instacart's not a seasonal business. It is a 1.3 times a week. Let me get more butter. Let me get more milk. Let me get more cheese. Let me get more tomatoes. And that really has a lot to do with when we start talking about future products and bidding, sort of bidding all the time, taking advantage of the volume of people doing everyday things, but doing them online. We also look really specifically at where products, we look at ATC, added to cart, where products get added to a cart and what part of the sort of shopping process they come from. You can see this data is from March 15th back, and you can see sort of the ebb and flow, green being search, the orange being browse, the darker green, did you forget, and the orange buy it again, and the blue being browse. So we keep track of this sort of stuff, and this chart's always interesting because I hear people say, well, only 50% came from search. Well, I don't really have, then that, what happens to the other 50%? How does that affect the way I invest in Instacart in terms of marketing to folks? Well, just as you bid on search terms, don't forget default bids on Instacart, because they actually make products appear higher in all the other sections that are not search. So again, we look at data like this. We look at data like dry January. So did people take the month of January off like they typically do, even though we were in the middle of a pandemic in January 2021? We weren't back in January 2020. So we look at share of stomach, right? And we look at total sort of beverage sales. And we look back and say, well, okay, so about 28% of total beverage was alcohol, jumped up to as high as almost 38% back sort of start of the pandemic. It was really heavy again towards the end of the year. Everyone's probably thanking God that 2020 was over. And then it did dip a little bit in January of this year. Interesting. If they weren't buying booze, what were people buying? So we look at growth in certain categories year over year of beverages. We look at growth month over month. So, more smoothies, more sports drinks. Again, just a sample of the type of information that Instacart can break down. This is I think we got a question in Q&A here. I'll pause and look at it. I can't actually see it here.
I can
So I'm
read
gonna,
it for you. Does
yeah,
Instacart foresee a future where they will list products and or allow advertisers that have products not available at grocery retailers but available direct online?
I'm assuming you mean like a storage, like we have our own warehouses and when you order a product, not right now. I think it's funny because I think I mentioned DoorDash is starting to do that. Again, we have a very special relationship with the retailers that we partner with. I think retailers see that as a threat, right? Like this is a business that we actually help them deliver on a promise, right? So I'm sure we consider a lot of things every day. It's just we do look at our retailers, we do look at that relationship, and we do look at that as something that might make them uncomfortable. We have another question, but I'm going to get through a couple more slides and then maybe we'll take that question. So here's just an interesting thing. So we look geographically, who is buying what type of stuff in the Kansas City area versus the Tampa Bay area. Nothing really crazy here. People in Tampa Bay bought a lot more sort of liquids, so ready to drink tea, water. In Kansas City, they bought a lot more potatoes, like, and not potato chips, but just potatoes. I don't know if they were baking them, cutting them up, but again, random stuff, but just interesting stuff that shows you sort of the power of some of the data that we can look at.
Hey, Dave, I have a quick question on that. So, and I'm sure Julia can add to this because she's in platform a lot, but obviously it's a lot of keyword based targeting when you're thinking about the advertising side of things. Have you seen brands kind of pivot their strategies around like key events like the Super Bowl and try to capitalize on terms that they may have otherwise not bid on? And any thoughts around like that sort of strategy to be able to build new customer bases and capitalize beyond just the repeat purchasers?
No, it's a great question. And that's sort of why I'm here, why the agency team's here is as we start to lather and rinse and repeat year after year, we're going to have certain learnings, right? So these are the learnings from Super Bowl. We learned, one of the big things we learned, and I'll get on to the next slide, is one thing we learned this year, typically in the ad business, right? You sort of wind down in December. By the 25th of December, everyone's flown the coop and you're gone and you're on vacation. Some of us go to CES. We don't really get back to our desks until maybe Jan 8th or 9th. And you don't really spend. And then sort of the ad business picks back up. Well, that happened again this year. But what happened is we saw order volume at its highest ever. So what was happening is people sort of, oh, well, I'm just going to tone down my bids, or I'm going to, shrink my budgets because of this advertising budget lull. What happened is we saw, the people were going dark 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning. And the amount of share that they were losing and the amount of sales that they were losing was, unprecedented. So just like that's a learning that we didn't really even think about. And now, of course, we got back in January and we were like, oh crap, like we got to talk to our advertisers. We have to get spend back up because they're missing out. One side of our business was doing amazing, while the other side of our business was following a very cyclical ad cycle, which wasn't good for our brands and wasn't good for what they were selling. So we're going to take these learnings and make sure every year that we, Super Bowl, otherwise, dry January or otherwise, we're going to make sure that you guys as an agency, that our brands all sort of get this information. So basically we have 5 ad products right now. Again, we're not necessarily an ad tech company yet. We're getting there, and we expect to see a lot of growth over the coming years. We'll talk about future products in a second. We have a delivery promotion, which is we have coupons, a hero banner, and email. Delivery promotion is exactly what it sounds like. If you're a brand, you can sponsor free delivery, AKA, hey, you bought some Smucker's jam. If you buy $10 more worth of Smucker's products, guess what? We'll pay for your delivery. It's kind of cool experiment. Brand becomes the hero. Coupons couldn't be any more similar to a typical coupon experience. You can see them here in red. The hero banner is interesting. So it gives, and this is where you'll see a lot of work that we'll be doing over the coming sort of short months and years. So this, banner ad gives a brand the ability to sort of own an aisle, sort of an aisle end cap, right? So this is Planters owning the snacks aisle, right, or the snacks sort of category. This is right now, this is hand sold. We run inventory off of some sort of Excel or Google sheet. This will be coming to the actual experience that you see when you're in the platform for featured product. So we're looking to move display over to that platform and make it much more automated and also make it much more expansive. So this is where you'll see a lot of work done on these types of display experiences.
I almost feel like kind of like an awareness play in terms of how that reads in the platform.
I noticed, it's funny, I noticed there was a question in the queue about upper funnel. Like how does, Instacart is so lower funnel, like you couldn't get even, like it's like literally a hand putting something into a bag when you sort of do that featured product, we have that featured product experience. This is more higher, like how do we get more top of funnel, and whether it's bigger display units, I don't know, we'll probably experiment with video at one point. There are trade-offs, right? Higher funnel versus, taking away, Amazon, and we've hired a lot of people from Amazon, very conscious of not removing people from that purchase path. I'm sure we'll have that same attentiveness to that. But at the end of the day, there's room for a bigger brand experience on Instacart, and we're going to be bringing that to people. Email, very easy. It's simply, it gives customers or brands a chance to target. So who bought, Campbell's soup last 90 days? Who bought soup last 90 days? How can we target them within mail from Instacart? And I think we talked a little bit about this. With really three things we're focusing on. We're going to get, better and deeper with our insights and optimization and measurement. We're going to improve the ad product. We talked about display and bringing display into the platform. And then we're going to be doing things like, experimenting with what data monetization looks like. So actually looking at data pilots using transaction data on and off platform at Instacart. So how does it all work?
Dave, so sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but this is just something that we've gotten from several brands that was curious if you had any insight on, and that's things like, does Instacart expect to be able to do things like geo-targeting in the future, day parting, even audience targeting based on past purchase behavior? Do you think that's on your
It is 100% on the roadmap. Like I just, before this, got off a call about our audience targeting product, which will be ready very soon. You'll be able to go buy people who bought hamburger buns last 90 days. Again, that doesn't necessarily work with a search CPC based product, right? It works more with a display product, so you can see sort of those go hand in hand together. So yes, we're definitely thinking about that. So how does it all work? The decision tree. I think we talked a little bit about this. We're going to talk about the first part of this, so you can see the woman sort of deciding what she wants to get on Instacart and putting it in her basket. The way that those products actually surface, there's a lot of decision sort of making in there. So where does your brand's content come from? Really, it comes from three sources. Some of the larger brands will have a content service provider, and that is, they don't necessarily love the quality of the SKUs and images that come from retailers. So they'll actually sort of trump any retailer experience, and they'll have their own product description, product creative. The retailers do provide SKUs on a daily basis. And then we have a jot form, so manual submission process that attempts to correct any problems that go wrong with the first two. Instacart also sources data itself. Like if you look at nutritional data, we do a lot of that buying, so that if you dive deeper in our product, you can see calories, carbohydrates, etc. We source a lot of that ourselves. So I'm not going to go too deep into here, but there is a process to follow if your products aren't showing up on Instacart. We do dive down to the CSP, to the retailer to troubleshoot issues. If you have issues like that, bring it up to your account team. Bring it up to me as well. I'm here to help shepherd those along as well. So how do you win with featured products? So the strategy, and I think we hit on this a little bit, but I'll dive a little deeper. I mean, just volume, volume, volume. We like I said, we're seeing record volume every single day. So with record volume every day, there's massive opportunity to go as far as you can go with the budget that your brand, allows. I mean, we talked about the pre-qualification of the consumer. I mean, it doesn't get any, like I said, any more like having a virtual hand put a can of something in a basket and check out. So it is the furthest down the funnel you can possibly get. When you click on that product and you pay a CPC, that product falls into a basket. So pretty effective there. It's a second price CPC auction if you're bidding on the search term soup, and you're bidding 80 cents and the next highest bid is 50 cents, you're only going to pay 51 cents. So it's very similar to Amazon, very similar to Walmart. And then what we're seeing is just the power of repeat and express users. That means those default bids that you have on buy that are non-search related, buy it again. When people are checking out, like those types of bids become all the more important. Obviously, before you advertise on Instacart for your brand, you should consider a bunch of things. The catalog, the content, the experience, the images, but then also the number of retailers and the number of SKUs. Like if you've got 2 SKUs, but you're at Costco and you're at I don't know, a big one. We'll say Costco and like maybe an Aldi's. Like, okay, you might have some pretty big distribution. But if you have 2 SKU, 100 SKUs, and they're only available in certain geolocations of certain small stores, chances are it might not be a good play. So you need to consider all of that, and then you need to consider the availability of your items at stores. It is a human going into a store and pulling a product off of a shelf. So those things need to be there in order for that human to pull the product. So all of these things sort of need to go into consideration. Once you do, and you decide to go into the platform and start, an ad program, consider the browse, right? So these are all the default bids. So this is, when I come into my King's Marketplace homepage, these are all things that I've bought again. Now I've bought hundreds of things from Instacart. So Kind Bars, Splendor, this is yogurt, or Vanity Fair napkin. Sorry, it looks a lot like a yogurt that my kids eat with the purple. But anyway, all these brands are paying high default bids, so they're showing up at the top, the first 3 placements on my homepage when I come in. Okay, same thing when I go in a specific department. So I've gone into pantry. Smucker's here is actually, their default bids are set high, so they're showing up at the top of these placements. I'm going to pause and maybe we can get to those 2 questions.
Okay. When will Instacart open up alcohol to additional states? Is there a roadmap for specific states?
Yeah, we're constantly working on that. There's sort of 3 things that BD does, right? Number 1 is really we have an alcohol BD team that works on it. Number 2 is we're constantly looking at big box or other big box retailers to bring on. Number 3 is international. So yes, we have a team, and we usually announce. I'm surprised I haven't had one. I've been here for 12 weeks. Surprised we haven't had one since I've been here, but we're working on it.
I know the wine that we run on the platform love to be able to amplify the success that they had already been seeing organically. I mean, to be able to see so readily the ROAS that you're able to have, I feel like it's such a slam dunk for brands who are really focused on that lower funnel goal. So just wanted to throw that in there. They love it.
Totally.
And then the other question is, don't retailers like Loblaws and Walmart have an increasing advantage versus third-party delivery apps?
Third-party delivery apps. I'm not sure. Like using other delivery apps, maybe?
I'm guessing like a DoorDash or, yeah.
They may. Walmart isn't far behind. When I talked about Instacart being 50%, roughly 50% share of that 10%, Walmart's probably our next largest competitor. We'd be surprised at how small of a share Amazon Fresh and Fresh Direct sort of have of that marketplace. But yeah, I mean, they may have an advantage. I'm not 100% sure. So now I'll sort of pick up. So we talked about browse. Let's talk about search. So here's a search for cereal. Obviously, Quaker doubling down, right? So you've got Quaker Oats. So Quaker's search bid on the term cereal is winning all, and it's winning all three placements. Now, if I scroll down this page, this is a live page. As soon as you get to 12 boxes, you get more featured products. So I'm sorry, I should have included a better screenshot where you show like sort of like the next featured product that comes. I'm assuming it wouldn't be from Quaker, but this shows you sort of the power of search and sort of what Quaker's making a big play here, right? Because you can buy competitive brands. So here's where you're buying. You search for Cheerios, and again, you've got your Quakers coming up. And then also getting back to our default bids, buy it again. So these are all things I've bought again, but Bird's Eye, Jif, Dunkin' Donuts, they're upping their default bids. They're coming up first on this page. This is get everything you need. This is as I check out. I actually haven't bought any Diet Coke or vitamin water or Breyers. So these are just those brands fighting for my attention on my way out of the marketplace. I have bought turkey pepperoni and Pirate's Booty. So those are things I have bought, but you can see here the opportunity for brands to be there when I'm checking out. So obviously 2 ways to set your budget. You can pace your spend. So that would mean saying, hey, I have $1,000 and over 5 days, I'm going to set my bid at $200. It's typically what brands do. You do run the risk of running dark. And so when we talk about running dark, we always talk about the hours in Pacific time. So if we say, hey, you're dark by 9, that's 9 Pacific, so 12 Eastern. We do have, in the reports there, we do have missed impressions. We are doing a missed sales beta too. So you'll be able to see how many impressions you missed, but also how many sales you missed. Max impressions for anyone that's worked in, in this sort of searched bid environment. I know it scares everyone a lot. It does mean that you take advantage of every opportunity you have, but it does mean if you set that $1,000 budget, it could run out in a day as opposed to pacing it over 5 days.
I think that's been really helpful too for conversations with brands is, being able to see what we missed out on and vying for larger budgets just based on having that quick insight every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's many times a brand will manage to some sort of ROAS. If you're looking at, if you're getting 7 to 1, like I encourage you, go down to 3 to 1. Like it's the amount. Because don't forget those extra orders, right? Not only are it's not only dollars today, but you get added to. One of the interesting things about Instacart is by a 10th purchase, almost 25% of everything you buy comes from a buy it again bid. So you may be thinking, oh, who cares? I'm getting 7. I don't want to go down to 4. I like the extra money, but just think about the long-term value of those extra 3 exposures or sales that you're getting. The long-term value could be a lot more than just the dollars that you're saving during that day. So again, high-level featured product, it's second price auction. You have the ability to bid on child SKUs, so different sizes, flavors. So you got Heinz ketchup, how many different sizes? You got jumbo, you got the small one. We have exact match only today, so we don't have broad match, although we hear that that's coming. Every click has a 14-day click attribution. So every UPC that gets clicked on has an attribution that we look back to 14 days. That goes to the next 2 bullets. All UPCs have a history across the Instacart network based on campaigns that you start. If you go back into the platform 28 to 48 hours afterwards, we'll have some additional search terms that will auto-populate into the account. You can either I don't think you can delete them. You can actually just bid really low on them, and they won't actually work. But we try to be suggestive in terms of getting you all of the terms that will have a positive impact on the campaign that you set up for your brand. And then each UPC
eliminate bias too, right? Like brands think that they know what they're trying to go after in terms of competitive conquesting or other types of products, but having kind of that historical data from Instacart gives a bit of a new perspective.
100%, 100%. I mean, we're trying the best to help you maximize efficiency within your campaign. And then each UPC has its own quality score. The more popular, variants will appear more often. The big jumbo, Tabasco is probably not going to, appear as many times as the standard, I don't know, 10 ounce, 8 ounce, I don't know what the little Tabascos are. But it's just, we will default to what is clicked on the most and has the greatest overall quality score. So the last section I'm going to go into, I don't know how I'm doing in time. I think I'm okay, or I'm going to go pretty quickly here.
Closing in, so go pretty quick if you can.
Yeah. So we do have insights that we provide to all our brands. The way we look at insights, they're provided in terms of the relation of products that you sell, gross sort of sales, and the investment on Instacart. So you can see here, obviously tier 5 gets the least amount of insights. Tier 1 gets the most. Tier 1's about a 10% ratio. So for every $1 million, you assume you're spending around $100,000 investment on Instacart, and then it obviously goes down from there. I'll breeze through these reports, but we do things, and this is from tier 5 moving to tier 1. So just basics sales reports. We talk about year-to-date sales and monthly sales. We talk about it in the vein of the category as well, the super category at the lower tiers. We can look at out of stock. You look at, in the same way that we look at sort of missed sales when you go dark in terms of your bid, we look at missed sales when you have out of stock items. As we start to move to the middle of those tiers, we get a little more analytical. So we'll decompose actual carts in sales, like, what are your total number? How does it compare to a year ago? Et cetera, et cetera. So we'll start to dive deeper. We'll look at new customers. We'll also go deeper into the category instead of the super category. We'll dive deep into specific categories like a ketchup or a jelly, et cetera. And then we'll go out of stock by UPC. So we'll actually look at, we can go and look at every UPC and go and look at, out of stock and what it meant for that specific SKU. And that's it. We've got a bunch of resources. Everyone will get a copy of this deck. These will be linked to that deck. And that's it. I think I breezed through that pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was awesome. We have 1 minute left, so great on time. I want to thank you today. Elise, I know you want to thank as well.
I do. Thank you.
No, it was my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Listen, we're the main theme is, get on board, start experimenting with Instacart. It's going to, the product and it is going to change and grow very quickly. So, it's best to get on and start experimenting now, because it's going to be a great couple of years.
Absolutely. What we keep telling our brands is that you're probably already seeing organic success. Amplify it, put some money behind it, be able to capitalize on getting new customers, grow your current customer base, things like that. Just meet people where they are, really. And I feel like Instacart is a great mechanism to do that. So thank you for walking us through all of the details and the new things to come. I feel like it was extremely valuable.
Cool. It was my pleasure. It was great. Hope everyone has a good rest of their Thursday.
Sounds great. Thank you all.
Take care.
Bye.